The BS Gambit. And by BS I mean Blackburn shilling. Not the reason my wife gave for working late last night. e4 e5 knight f3, knight c6 and bishop c4, is the Italian game, the most popular opening in chess. All is normal and everything's peaceful. Until black goes knight d4, leaving the pawn on e5 hanging. This is law 40 of the 48 laws of power, the backbone of our video today. But let's be honest, knight takes e5 is what most of you GMs will play in this position. Big mistake, because queen g5 is a double attack, hitting the knight and the pawn on g2. Knight takes f7 is your response, you know what you're doing, because after queen takes g2, the rook simply goes to f1, but black's rook on the other hand, toast. Right? Yeah, right. Queen takes e4 check is on the board. This move loses the queen, so better is bishop e2. Which loses the game. But I know what you're thinking, in this position a few moves ago. Knight takes h8, a rook for a rook. But queen takes rook check, the bishop shields, and just when you're thinking your bishop might earn you an undeserved draw, d5 opens this light squared diagonal. You play d3 hitting the queen, but now, there is a nasty checkmate in 2 moves. Can you find it? Why do I even bother asking? It's knight f3 check, making use of the pin, and then king f1 is followed by bishop h3 checkmate. But that's not all I'll be doing in this video. For each dirty opening I will show you, I will also give you a decent way to respond to it, so you can finally stop losing to weaker opponents. But what if there was a way to avoid this humiliation once and for all? Those who've been watching my videos already know about Lotus Chess, and the 2 brothers who after losing to the point of nausea, did something unheard of in Germany. They channeled their rage into something positive. And built an app that isn't just efficient, it's actually fun to use. You log in with your Lichess or chess.com username, and the AI behind Lotus scans all your games, but forget what you're already good at, it'll tell you exactly which dirty openings are clowning you in broad daylight. But here's the game changer, it doesn't just identify the problem, it fixes it. It shows you the best ways to respond, turning those hopeless losses into clean wins. And the fun part? That's a feature called Crushing Line. Instead of boring engine moves, you can ask Lotus to use your own data to give you the exact tricks and traps that work against the opponents you face, at your specific rating level. It's efficient, it's fun, and once it's set up, it even works offline, so you can train anywhere. The subway, a cave in Great Zimbabwe, or the dark corner of your room where you cry, after watching a Mortal Chess video. Google Play, or the App Store. Click one of the links below, and find out exactly which opening is causing you the most pain, and more importantly, how to crush it. As for the BS Gambit? Well, as soon as you see that knight on d4, don't be a hero. Just take the knight. Pawn takes, and after castles, you are way ahead in development and your king is safe. All for the sweet price of nothing. A few normal moves. And e5 is looming, f7 is a target and black's king is right there on e8. The Latvian Gambit. e4 e5 and knight f3 is standard. We're taking care of one e4 players first. So if you're a London system player, stick around till the end. Because yes, I have YouTube analytics. And I don't want to say which country has the shortest attention span. Well, South Africa. But don't worry, they've probably already left. f5 is the Latvian Gambit. Free material. You capture, black plays bishop c5, eyeing f2. And then you capture the other pawn. Because if it gets tough, you give back one pawn and play the rest of the game a pawn up. What's the worst that could happen? Bishop takes f2 check, a direct hit. King takes and the queen enters the position via h4. Check. Where do you go with the king? If you try g3, black plays queen d4 check, and after king g2, the knight is gone. So are your castling rights. In fact, in this position, the only move that saves the knight is king g1. You sacrifice the king instead. Excellent. So f5 is on the board. What should you do? Instead of pawn takes, play knight takes. Black captures and you deliver a shocking queen h5 check. g6? Knight takes g6, and black settles for knight f6, defending against nasty knight discoveries. But you continue the assault, queen e5 check. Black plays bishop e7, and then, the satisfying knight takes h8. You've won a rook, and you've left your opponent a very important message. Never play these dog pile gambits against me, I'm a different breed. The Elephant Gambit. e4 e5 and knight f3. But this time instead of f5 like in the Latvian Gambit, we get d5. One of those 2 black pawns is hanging. You see it, and you capture it. Black grabs the e-pawn, and the move bishop c4 Hitting black's f7 weak point is the beginning of black's worst nightmare. But you didn't calculate that. It came to you. You're genius. It's scary sometimes. But queen g5 is on the board, and I hope for the sake of your short-term memory, this looks familiar. Because with a similar position in the BS gambit, knight takes f7, forks the rook and the queen, which escapes by capturing on g2. You defend with rook f1, because without queen e4 check shenanigans, surely this rook is just hanging. But black unleashes bishop g4. You play f3, the bishop takes and you're forced to sacrifice the rook. Not all is lost though. You still have your premium hub subscription. And knight takes h8 regains the rook, but that's just in time for f2 check, king e2, f1 equals queen double check, and your position is slowly starting to look like the state of my marriage. Shambles. But how do you avoid such a situation, you may ask? Well, skip the wedding, and just give her half your stuff up front. You'll live longer. Unless you're asking about avoiding this elephant gambit situation on the board. The reason you clicked on the darn video. My bad. In this position, instead of knight takes, try pawn takes instead. Black will play e4 harassing your knight, and you will respond with the fancy queen e2 pinning the pawn. Queen takes d5 regains the gambit pawn, only to be met with knight c3. And in 2 moves, you're a pawn up, your king is safe, and the elephant gambit has been contained. The Stafford gambit. e4 e5 knight f3 and knight f6 is the Petrov defense. Seemingly safe. You take the pawn, but instead of retakes, knight c6 is on the board. And to simplify things, you capture. Takes. And now you're thinking you're up a pawn and you're developing. You play d3 protecting your pawn. But black, with an innocent-looking bishop c5, sets the trap. What trap? Everything seems solid here, and the move bishop g5 pins the knight to the queen. A splendid position, and under your immense pressure, black folds, and plays the horrible move knight takes e4. You take the queen, because you're the better player, and you deserve it. But what you deserve is bishop takes f2 check, king goes to e2, and then the horrifying bishop g4 is checkmate. The escape? Don't worry, I got you. After d takes c6, don't play d3. Instead, solidify your center with knight c3. Black plays bishop c5, and then you prevent any sneaky knight or bishop advances with h3. Black's final try is queen d4, attacking the e4 pawn. But the calm d3 solves all your problems. I'm joking. Please don't play d3 here. The move is queen f3, protecting both d3, and the checkmate threat on f2. The England Gambit. D4 players, all London system players, from the Rainbow Nation and all countries alike. Your patience has paid off, because we're about to address a huge problem. 1 d4 and before you can get your development going, the immediate e5 is on the board. A free pawn. You take, black plays knight c6 looking to regain the pawn. You develop with bishop f4 protecting e5, queen e7 adds pressure, but knight f3 seems to solve all of your problems. And then, black plays queen b4 check forking the bishop and the b2 pawn. Annoying. You block with bishop d2, the best move, but black is relentless, queen takes b2 regains the gambit pawn, and attacks the rook on a1. You try to save it with bishop c3, but this is the fatal mistake. Because bishop b4 is an excellent move pinning the bishop and restoring the threat on the rook. Queen d2 renews the threat on the queen, but now, bishop takes c3. And your whole idea was to recapture with the queen protecting the rook. But now, the final blow. Queen c1, checkmate. You'll be surprised how many games are lost this way. So how do we refute this nasty England gambit? Well, after bishop d2, and queen takes b2, there's another way to save the rook. Knight c3. Black will still try bishop b4. You play rook b1 hitting the queen, which moves to a3, and now the most important move of the refutation. Knight d5. With a very real threat of capturing on c7, check, forking the king and the rook. In this position the vast majority of black players will capture on d2, queen takes, and now, the only move to protect c7, is king d8. Black's king is stuck at the center, there are dangerous moves like queen g5 check, all in all, this isn't the position black envisioned when he played e5. Leave a like, this is quality chess advice. But why am I being this generous? Well, because despite my neighbor's wild claims, I'm a pretty decent guy. And no, I have no idea what happened to her pet chicken. May her delicious soul rest in eternal peace. The Budapest Gambit. d4 knight f6 and c4 is the correct way to continue after 1 d4. But that doesn't mean you're immune to black's treachery. Because e5, and thinking it's a free pawn, you take it and black hits you with knight g4. Naturally, knight f3 protects your pawn, and after d6, you cash in. You're a healthy pawn up, all you need to do is kick the knight, and enjoy the rest of the game. Terrible mistake. Knight takes f2 forks the queen and the rook, but king takes, and what's the big idea? Well, it's bishop g3 check, king takes, and then, the soul-crushing queen takes d1. Can you feel your blood pressure working together with your cholesterol? Chess is good for you, they say. That's some Blackburn shilling if you ask me. But there's a way to avoid this massive headache. After knight g4, protect your pawn with bishop f4 instead. Black can play d6. You simply take, and welcome any exchanges that come your way. Because when the dust settles, you're simply a healthy pawn up in a simple position. But now, you have the black pieces, and in the same theme of losing your queen, we have the intercontinental ballistic missile gambit. e4 and c6 is the Caro-Kann defense. Knight f3 is met with d5 striking at white center, but d3 is the quiet response that sets the trap, because after takes, and knight d5 attacking your pawn, you seal your material advantage by capturing on d3, and after bishop takes, all you have to do is chase away this pesky knight with h6, and then enjoy the rest of the game. But now, the launch sequence. Knight takes f7. King takes, and then white unleashes the bishop. You saw this a mere 2 minutes ago, and yes, the ultimate weapon is queen takes d8. Do not fall for this again. Do not play h6 in this position. Instead, simply change the coordinates of your queen to c7. And then ask white what he has to show for the gambited pawn. Nuclear strike is averted. And the neighboring countries live to play cricket another day. The Halloween gambit. e4 e5, the four knights come out, to an opening known as the four knights tango. But white plays a mysterious move. Knight takes e5, a free knight, which you happily snatch with knight takes e5. But now, a central pawn storm on steroids, is launched towards your king. Each move with tempo on the knights, but the real tricks, start after the move d6 hits the board. You try to open lines with pawn takes. White takes, and with queen f6, you attack the pawn on d6 and white defends with knight b5. It looks like the worst is behind you, but you're not paying attention. White is looking at the juicy fork on c7. You defend with king d8, but now bishop e3, is a double attack on a7, prompting the move a6, a terrible mistake. Because a few moves later, you have lost the rook, but that's not enough. A few more moves, and it's the queen's turn to get in the blender. It's the scariest gambit in chess, and now you know why. The refutation? Simple. After knight takes e5, you take the material. But the key idea is that your knights escape towards the king's side. And then next step is to prepare the move d5, striking at white center Caro-Kann style. Keep this checkmate at the back of your head, and white does not have enough compensation for sacrificing an entire piece. The fried liver attack. The famous Italian game branches into the two knights defense, and then the slimy knight g5 is the beginning of a nasty sequence of moves. The f7 pawn is under attack. What do you do here? You can block with d5, pawn takes, and the knight regains your material. But now, the gut punch. White plays knight takes f7 and you're forced to capture with your king. Queen f3 check hits the king and the knight on d5, a brilliant move. And you? Well, I'm fully convinced you will play king g8 in this position. Checkmate in 3 moves. Comment down below if you can find it. The escape clause. After e takes d5, don't play knight takes. Instead, play knight a5. White might try bishop b5 check, but you block with c6. Takes, and the bishop retreats to d3. You advance with knight d5 discovering a threat on the knight, which retreats to f3. Bishop d6, white castles, and in case you haven't noticed, the tables have turned. You have now gambited a pawn, but look at your bishops, look at your knight. Getting an attack this decent with the black pieces is very rare. The alien gambit. e4 c6 d4 d5, and with the move knight d2, we are following classical main line Caro-Kann theory. Takes, knight takes and knight f6. All is normal until the strange move knight g5. You know this gambit would not have made it onto today's list, if the simple move h6 solved all of black's problems. Knight takes f7 forks the queen and the rook. But king takes f7, well, that opens an even deeper can of worms. So deep I dedicated a whole video to it. A must watch if you're a Caro-Kann player, Or you're looking for a deadly weapon to play against the Caro-Kann.